Can Cole Palmer let Liam DELAP take penalties at Chelsea next season? Here's the challenge. We all know who won the Premier League Golden Boot last season, Egyptian King Mo Salah, with 29 goals, but a whopping 9 of that tally were penalties. Should you take that off? He's not winning the Golden Boot. The previous 2 seasons had been won by Erling Haaland, and he scored 7 penalties in each of those. In one of the seasons, he scored 27 goals. Should you take that 7 goals off? He's not winning the Golden Boot. Of course, in the first season, he scored 30 goals. Even if you took off the 7, he would still win it. But even if you go back, the person who won the Golden Boot in the last 6 years scored at least 4, 5, but sometimes, as we have seen, it has been 7 or even 9. So here is my submission. Last season, Nicholas Jackson scored 10 goals. You compare that to what Liam DELAP scored, 12. Maybe you take off the 2 penalties. They scored the same number of goals from open play. In the first season, Nicholas Jackson scored 14 goals, and Cole Palmer scored, I think, 8 penalties. Had that been given to our leading number 9, he's scoring 22 goals in the season. That boosts his confidence, and is one of the top strikers in the league, if that was the case. And here is why I'm submitting that. Chelsea just secured this signature of English international Liam DELAP from Ipswich Town for just £30 million. That sounds like a steal, and it is. And given that he's still younger and energetic and is giving us what Nicholas Jackson has not been offering, a clinical finisher, even sounds more ridiculous. But he's faced with a challenge. At Chelsea, Cole Palmer is the designated penalty taker, as we all know. Actually, we remember an incident, I think, against Everton the other season when Mauricio Pochettino was in charge. We get a penalty. I think the game was for something. Cole Palmer had already scored a hat-trick. Nicholas Jackson won that penalty, if you remember. Then Noni Madueke and Nicholas Jackson try to take the ball off Cole Palmer, and he refuses. You've already scored a hat-trick. Your colleague wants to score, is the leading attacker, Nicholas Jackson. He has actually won the penalty himself, and Palmer said no. And that shows you that even if you are the striker, you will not get a chance to take the penalties. Palmer is the designated taker. If you look at nearly every other club whose leading top scorer in the last season, they were penalty takers. Talk about the Sakas, the Salas, the Haalands, the Isaacs, nearly everyone. And even as I have given you the stats, the ones that have gone ahead to win have always had a crucial contribution from penalties. At Chelsea, our strikers have mainly struggled because they are not taking penalties. Actually, there was a time, some time back, when Didier Drogba was in a race for the Golden Boot. I think it was against Wayne Rooney. And in the final game, we get a penalty, and Frank Lampard is refusing to give a penalty to Drogba to take it. Actually, Lampard took it. It's only that we got, I think, a second penalty, and that's when he allowed Drogba to take. But that's a selfish mindset. I don't think a midfielder needs to take penalties to be considered a great midfielder. The person we consider to be our best player, at least in the last 2 decades at the club, is Eden Hazard. But there were matches there were games where Hazard didn't score or didn't even assist, but he was named man of the match. Hazard didn't score even half of what Lampard scored at Chelsea. But if you ask anyone who of the two was a greater player for the club, even if Hazard spent a lower time period, Hazard is better off because he was contributing to the game, not just through goals or penalties. Even if he was the designated penalty taker during his time at Chelsea, I remember the seasons when Diego Costa was at the club. Hazard would let Costa take the penalties, and here we are with Cole Palmer, and Nicholas Jackson is basically lagging behind. Because of that, if Jackson was being given maybe the chance to take penalties, his tally would have been different. Of course, we can't deny that he misses a lot. I'm sure even the best Anthony's in the world you cannot defend Nicholas Jackson's misses, but should you give him penalties? And we don't even actually know whether he's a good penalty taker because he has never been given a chance. But given the quality of his shots, I'm sure he would even miss penalties. But jokes aside, should we get DELAP? He has shown he's a good penalty taker at Ipswich. Will Cole Palmer reduce his ego? Will he give him the chance to take the penalties? Of course, his boyhood friend. Will he give him the chance to take the penalties? Suppose maybe you have a brace. DELAP has already hit a brace. Would he give him a chance to take the penalties? I think is it last season just covered had scored 2 goals and Man City got a penalty and he gave it to Haaland. Even if I think at Man City it's that clear that when someone has already scored 2 goals, you give him a chance to take a penalty. But he allowed Erling Haaland to take the penalty. That's what we need at Chelsea. Like we have said, we don't remember Hazard only for the goals. He's remembered for the contribution, and even Palmer. His only attribute is not scoring the goals. We know him for that creativity, and we shall embrace it. Actually, even if Palmer went for something like 5 matches without scoring, but if you're contributing through assists, we shall recognize you for Palmer. That's not the case for a striker. Even if Jackson was assisting like every match in out, if we reach like 10 games and he's not scoring, people will say that he's on a goal drought. Of course, they will mention the other, but he's on a goal drought. We remember strikers maybe like Roberto Firmino. He was a very selfless striker, but because he had a fewer number of goals, when we mention the greatest strikers in the Premier League, his name can't be mentioned. Of course, we can mention him for that. For his selflessness, it allowed his teammates, the likes of Sadio Mane and Salah, to flourish, but he suffered that way. His legacy is different. Of course, we remember him for those of us who appreciate the game. We remember him, but when it comes to recognizing him as a greater striker, no, his name won't appear on that list. So that's where we are. I'm personally impressed with what we saw from DELAP on his debut. That brilliant color assist into the box that Enzo Fernandez latched onto to give us the leader. The decider against FC, they were on our neck, and then he scored it. Maybe we would have suffered. Even the way he handles the game, he can really threaten the defenders much more maybe than Jackson. I'm one of those Chelsea fans who appreciate Jackson, but he needs competition. I think Christopher Nkunku didn't offer that at all. He needs that, but also that aspect of penalties needs to be looked into. If you have a striker who is going to score only 15 goals and then you have a midfielder who is going to come on and take the penalties, I think it's going to affect the morale of the strikers. Actually, someone who has already scored, say you get a penalty, give it to DELAP. It is easier for him to find a second goal in that match or even a third one than if he hasn't scored already. That's on record. When you go maybe on online betting sites and you find a game that's already 2-0, the next goal, the chances of there being a next goal in that game are higher compared to a game that is still 0-0. Teams will be much more defensive or protective than when they have already conceded. So we have to think through that while we look forward to supporting our new recruit, while looking forward to cheering them up. We should also consider such technical things. Um, Also, we wait and see whether we get a new winger, especially a right-footed left winger, someone to operate from the left. All the wingers we have at the moment, from George to Estavo William to Pedro Neto and Noni Madueke, are left-footed, and they can't do much with their right foot. We saw when Noni went to that left wing, there really wasn't that much. Maybe that's an opportunity actually for Nicholas Jackson to operate from that position. If we can't get a new left winger, yeah, maybe it's a chance for Jackson. Actually, I think if we win the second match in the Club World Cup, the third match, we should have Enzo Maresca tinkering with Nicholas Jackson on that left hand side, and we see what he can do from there. So guys, what are your opinions on this? Who would you want to start on that left flank? Would you go for Nicholas Jackson? Would you go for Noni, Pedro Neto? They weren't effective every time they were called upon to operate from the left. Sancho left. We are linked with Jamie Gittens. Should Borussia Dortmund insist on overcharging us? I think we should try out something. Of course, we have George Estavo William is coming on, and Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku are here. I think we can try utilizing Nicholas Jackson on the left. We give DELAP up front because we know Jackson is good at attracting the defenders, the opposition defenders, and then creating that brilliant ball for his teammates. Let it be Enzo, let it be especially Palmer. Most of the beautiful goals Palmer scored, they have always been created by Nicholas Jackson, if you can remember very well. Thank you for watching to this far. Yeah, see you next time.